All right, folks, welcome into another edition of the High School Huddle, your one-stop shop for all things and everything Section 5 sports. I'm AJ Feldman. He's Carl Jones. We are in the home stretch. We are on to the state final fours. High school sports, they are coming close to an end. It's the end of the road, Carl.
The end of the road. It's going to be a full year for me, starting out here in the fall, winter, and then even though spring zoomed by, I feel like I just started to cover these teams and just started to be well-versed on what teams are strong and what teams aren't. Seasons come to an end, but the hard work is, starting to pay off now and see who's going to raise those state titles, baby. Come on.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just because, all of these state tournaments happen at once or not, but it feels like we had a really strong spring sports season. I mean, we've got a lot of teams playing in the state final four this weekend.
I didn't think about that. You're right. That might be because all the tournaments are going on at the same time, but I mean, both boys and girls lacrosse, softball and baseball. Golf been doing their thing. I've been getting notifications all week on that. And then track and field, we got some ladies and some guys as well who are not just going to place at states, but are probable favorites. So, I mean, talk about Section 5, we're representing this week and the last week as well. And in terms of the state tournament, man, shout out to the Section 5 athletes doing their thing this spring season.
Yeah, and as we've said ad nauseum, the first state tournament for the spring sports since all the way back in 2019, and another silver lining, another good thing. After this upcoming week, we're done with referencing things that were canceled because of COVID, because we've had a full year of everything being back. There are no sectional championships this year. There, whatever, yada, yada. There's no defending state champions from 2019. We played a full year of high school sports. There were, the fall season, a little bit of winter, things got, just a tiny bit dicey, but nothing crazy was interrupted. Nothing, super weird. We had a full year of high school sports. Knock on wood. We don't want anything to happen in the next couple of days, but we did it. We're back to normal storylines.
Yeah. And for someone like myself who wasn't here during the pandemic, it was very annoying having to do all the research from the previous seasons and then not knowing, wait, was this the 2020 season where it didn't get off the ground, or the 2020? It was just so annoying. I'm happy when I'm just go off the previous year. They played, they lost, or they won. No ifs, ands, and buts about the virus. So yes, I am very ecstatic about that heading into next year. There, because that research was just so annoying having to wait, what? 2019, whatever. But
yeah, happy exactly. Especially the football when it was spring. So we played 2 years of football last year, talking about all that, man, it was nothing, or it was wild. So we are glad that we are done with that. We are glad that we're going to have a special guest on today's show, Mario Sacco, from our sister station in Syracuse, WSYR. We've got a lot of things for him to talk about. He was at the boys lacrosse games just yesterday when Fairport came up short. Canandaigua moved on to the state championship game, so he'll have a great breakdown of that. He was able to get his highlights. We got it up on our on Channel 8. It was good to see get the highlights. And then this upcoming Friday, all of our girls teams in Section 5 play. All of his girls teams out of Syracuse. So he's got full breakdowns of all these games coming up. As we kind of predicted in the Far West regionals, girls lacrosse was a rout. I believe it was 68-14 were the final scores of all those games combined. It was running clocks in all of them. It was first half highlights for all of them. You got to get there quick, but it set up a great weekend coming up in the state final four.
Yeah, a lot to a little. A lot to a little.
A lot to a literal and a lot of games.
Oh, man. Shout out to those ladies for getting the job done and moving on to the Final Four.
Exactly. So we will get that interview coming for you in just a couple of minutes. But first, we're going to head to the Diamond to preview our state semifinal games for both baseball and softball. We have two teams from each in the Rochester area. There are some fringe teams that are technically in Section 5, but are way out of Rochester. So we're going to focus on the teams that are right here in Rochester, the Rochester area. We're going to start on the softball diamond, where we have our Class A rep, Schroeder, going strong. They're moving on to the state Final Four.
Yeah, Schroeder is who we thought they were. Shout out to her members for that one. They had no losses. I mean, they had one loss, to Thomas, and the only team that they lost to in Section 5 this year, to a 20-5 record, and went all the way to a state semifinal. They took care of business taking care of Will South 13-1 last week. Heading into that game, they had like I don't want to say a lull, like in the batter's box. They had 13 combined runs in their previous 3 games before the Will South game, and then boom, 13 runs in that game. So that's going to show you that at the right time, Molly Piccolo is doing her thing in the circle, and then the bats are waking up. This team is very well-rounded, and then they're going to be taking on the 4th-ranked team in the state, Schroeder's 3rd, Metham out of Section 8, which I believe is Long Island. Long Island, that whole section confuses me in terms of what teams are in the further part of the island, the eastern part. Regardless, that team is on Long Island out of Section 8. So it's going to be a banger. It's going to be a good one. They're 19-4. I mean, 3-4. I mean, what other way can I set that up for you? It'll be at 11:15. That game will actually be, I believe all the softball games are on Long Island as well. So it'll be a little bit of a home field advantage for Metham, I believe is how you say their name. So we'll see if the ladies can get it done. And actually for softball, the semifinal games and final games are on the same day. So they're going to have a quick turnaround. They believe the Class A game is at 11:15, and then the finals games is at 3:45. So that's going to be interesting to see how. I know softball pitchers can pitch a lot more than baseball pitchers, but how much is Piccolo going in the first game? How much are they going to save her for the second game? Do you not care? Are we just going to throw her all in the first game? So that's going to be an interesting dynamic to see, and they'll have their definitely going to have their money cut off for them against the Metham team that's 4th in the state.
Yeah, especially, like you said, in these softball, these pitchers can go and go. I know I talk about Minnesota a lot, but in Minnesota, they're doing their state championships this week. They got the quarterfinals and the semifinals today. So it is a little bit of a war of attrition there. I don't think that the weather, certainly here in Rochester, isn't supposed to be too bad. I'm going to quickly look up what it's going to be like in Long Island, because, it's one thing if you're playing 2 games in the same day. It's another thing if it's 95 degrees out, but it does look like it's going to be, I got a high of 76 according to Apple Weather. So no problems with the weather there. It should be a good test. Like you said, Schroeder's really kind of coming to their own down the stretch. They're finding their game. That 13-0 game that you mentioned, they were kind of, coming along. Was it 13-0 or 13-1? Either way, they scored 13 runs. And then they kind of exploded. I believe it was in the 5th inning, and maybe actually in the 7th inning as well. They kind of put that one away. So just kind of a persistent attack. They've got a lot of hitters in their lineups, and you really can't blink when you're going up and down that lineup against Schroeder.
And once again, we like to see our stars rise to the cream of the crop this time of year. I think it's gonna be up to Molly Piccolo. How she gonna get it done, and see how she can keep that run total low against obviously a very quality Metham team.
And then moving on to the Class C bracket, we've got the Avon Braves repping Section 5. They pulled away with a 5-0 victory in their Far West Regional game. They're going to take on Greenwich in the state final 4. That game will be Saturday at 9 a.m. The championship game for Class C will be 1:30. So some early starts for both of our teams coming down here to Long Island. Greenwich, the 2012 and 2003 state champs, so a good bit of history there. They are currently 4th in the state. Avon is 6th in the state. And, I haven't really, we have a lot of teams to focus on. We can't, our time is spent elsewhere, but I just want to kind of highlight this Avon Braves team that we haven't really talked much about this year. Jolie Cry for the Avon Braves, getting it done in both the mound and in the circle. Not in the mound of the circle, in the batter's box and in the circle. She is hitting 500 on the season. That is 1 hit for every 2 at bats for the kids at home who did not pass their 3rd grade fraction classes. In the Far West Regionals, she had a 3-run homer. Then she pitched a shutout in that 5-0 Far West Regional game. So far right now this year in the circle, she is 17-1 with a 0.23 ERA, 4 earned runs in 119 innings.
That's good, folks. That's pretty good. That's good.
That is really good. Now, according to Max Preps, which looks like they have all the stats compiled, she does have 23 unearned runs this year. So I don't know if it's just errors. It's the computational. So when she's on the mound, she's given up 27 runs in those games. So just over a run a game, which is really dang impressive. And then Jolie's younger sister, Jessie, just an 8th grader, hitting 436 on the season. So the Cry sisters getting it done for the Braves. I kind of wish I had realized this earlier. They've also got a senior, Courtney Yenser, hitting over 400 this year at 409. So you can see some gaudy numbers in these softball games, especially, and Avon has quite a few of them for sure.
Man, shout out to the Cry sisters, man. Man, above 100. You know what I was told, AJ, and you were obviously more well versed in this space than I am in terms of baseball and softball. But they say, you know, you bat 300, you're a Hall of Famer, right?
Exactly.
Well, we're getting into 400, 500. What's the tier for that? I mean, we getting into GOAT combos. But I mean, shout out to those ladies. And then just talking about their run to get to this point. I mean, they're low scoring affairs, but it seems as if, you know, they're not folding. And, you know, the moment's not too big. I mean, 5-0, 3-0, 2-1, 1-0. I mean, shout out to the Braves, man, you know, for getting to this point with a 21 record.
Yeah, you know, I mean, this time of the year, it's going to be a lot of these games. You get the aces on one side of the mountain, you got the aces on the other. So it's all about who can, you know, get those runs. It's all about who can grind out those hits. And in that Far West Regional game, it was Cry getting it done with a 3-run homer. So, you know, this is an Avon team that has, you know, played well, strong throughout the entire season. Like I said, just only the one loss this year. That loss came earlier in this season. That came just on May 18th to Keshequa, a 2-0 loss. So even in their losses, they're keeping it a low-scoring affair. So Avon has been a powerhouse all season long. They will try and win their first state championship this year as they try and you know, go all the way here.
Yeah, for sure. And this, I talked to the men's basketball team, the boys basketball team, when they won their sectional title, and it seemed like a really proud school, a lot of personality. So hopefully the ladies carry some charisma as well and bring home a state title.
Yeah, and Section 5 has had some pretty good luck in recent years in Class C. Bishop Kearney won it in 2017. It was Addison winning in 2015. So there's some recent track record going on there. We will see if the Braves can get it done. Then moving over to the baseball diamond, these games are going to be played in Binghamton. Carl's actually going to go out there shooting these semifinal games for us on Friday. We are going to start off on the baseball side of things. As I said, on the baseball side of things, as I already mentioned, we're going to start with Class AA. McQuaid taking on Massapequa in AA, the state semifinals. Massapequa, with a dominant season so far this year, they've got a 201 to 41 run differential. So they're winning a lot of these games by a little to a lot. Massapequa obviously over there on Long Island. This is actually a battle of the two reigning state champions. We mentioned, you know, obviously COVID, 2019 was the last states. McQuaid won in 2019. Massapequa won in 2018. So these are some very proud programs. Massapequa also getting it done in 2006. Will Taylor, you know, he's got a lot of rest. He did not pitch in that last Saturday game, so he'll be starting on the mound in the state semifinals. A 0.43 ERA, 6-1 record. We've talked a lot about Will Taylor. Obviously, he really good. Matthew Hannon should be getting the start for Massapequa. This is according to the Democratic Chronicle, talking to McQuaid's head coach. He's a righty committed to Hofstra, so another strong pitching performance this is going to be. And Massapequa, I mentioned their track record. They have made it to every state Final Four since 2017. So this is their fourth time going in a row. Obviously, the 2 years off, but Massapequa, a really strong program. McQuaid, obviously, as well. So this should be a heavyweight battle in the state semifinals here. That's for sure.
And I want to go back to last week a little bit and how the Knights got to this point. We talk about Will Taylor a lot, and you know the respect and all the hype he gets is well deserved. He's obviously you were at his no hitter, and he's just been doing his thing all year long. But I want to give some love to the pitcher who I had no idea about, and I thought Will Taylor was going to be on the mound for a trip for the Knights to go to the state semifinal. Daniel McAllen, he was on the mound. I asked Paul Gotham about him, and he was like, "Oh, he's a stud too." I'm like, "Okay, yeah, sounds good, whatever, Paulie G." And he was right. He had a quality outing, 5 Ks, only gave up 1 earned run. Will Taylor didn't even warm up at no point. He was doing his thing in the batter's box. So shout out to him for getting to that point. And I don't plan on Will Taylor ever getting rocked in the state semifinal game, but there is another horse that can help the Knights out as well. He did his thing, and I just want to give him his flowers and the respect that he deserved for that impressive outing he put on the mound last Saturday.
Yeah, you mentioned a little bit about, kind of how, the pitching rotations work and things like that. It's going to be Taylor in the semifinals. It's going to be McCallany in the state championship game if they were to make it that far. But from what I've seen from Taylor, a great thing about having him on the mound, he can go the distance. Both of the games I saw, he went a complete game shutout. Not too, unfamiliar for an ace, that's for sure. But in that Victor game that I saw in the state championship game, they were up 2-0 heading into the seventh inning. He gives off the leadoff homer on the very first pitch. Runner gets all the way around to second on a hit and then an error. They didn't have to go to the bullpen. They were just like, all right, he's our guy. So, he's a guy that can get out of tough spots. He does not get into a lot of tough spots. That is for sure. But if he were to hypothetically get in a tough spot, the goal of winning a state, the goal of going here is to win a state championship. It's not to win your state semifinal game and then, have something bad happen. So you got to set up your Saturday or your Friday game to set up your Saturday game. And Will Taylor is the type of guy who, can get it done, can go innings, finish the game off if he gets a little trouble. So that should be pretty, that should be a bloodbath in Class AA. Is two powerhouses really going at bat there in AA.
Enough about the Knights, though. We got to talk about a team that I gave a little story to, a little pub to earlier in the week. The Pal-Mac Red Raiders, undefeated down there in Class B. They're in the state semifinal for their first time in school history. This was my first time seeing the team, and they're as advertised. Chris Finaccio Jr., I believe is how you say his name. Pardon me if I butchered your last name. He was on the mound for the Red Raiders, did his thing once again, only gave up one earned run against Medina in the Far West Regional. But it's not just him, I promise y'all. You got the Goodness brothers that I've been talking about all year in basketball and on the diamond. You got Christian Morrison, who also can light it up in the box as well. That team, you don't have the lineup cards as I'm shooting the game, so I would like to know like all the hitters who I should probably be more in tune with, right? That like this might go deep. It didn't matter for Pal-Mac. I mean, like 1 through 9, the kids were getting on base and hitting them to all parts of the field. So that was tough to shoot, but shout out to the kids for being that quality up and down the lineup. They're taking on Spack and Kill out of Section 9. That game will be at 5 p.m. On Friday. Spack and Kills. I mean, you get to this point in the year, you're going to face a bunch of teams who are equally as good. They're 23-2 on the year. So Pal-Mac is taking that 24-0 record, that undefeated record on the line up against a very, very talented Spack and Kill squad.
Yeah, and like you said, you got a chance to talk to them after that game. What were some of the things what was maybe your biggest takeaway from talking to the team, getting their thoughts on the season, things like that? What was kind of your big takeaway from your little chat with them?
They're humble. I mean, just humble. And you're undefeated, first time in school history. You would assume that the kids are elated and they're gonna brag and maybe talk over the top a little bit. I'm sure you've encountered situations like that. Nah, this team locked in on a mission. I'm asking them, are you excited to be undefeated? They're like, one game at a time. It is what it is. Coach makes us live in the moment. I asked the coach. Coach was very similar. He was like, hey, it's all about the kids. They're just living in the moment, one game at a time. And that probably is a big reason why they're at this point. Their emotions aren't going up and down. They're even keel. I know they won 11-1 against Medina, but there were a couple times that Medina did get some base loaded opportunities, and they were able to get out of those jams. So that goes to show that this team, they got ice in their veins. They know the mission at hand, and I thought that was the biggest takeaway for me that we talked about when I got back to the station. This team is locked in on a mission. No funny business with the Red Raiders at all.
Yeah, and the team they're up against, Spack and Kill, made it here to the state semifinals. They had a 1-0 win in the regional game. It was this man Andrew Speranza, complete game 3-hitter. So everybody's got aces this far. We'll see if this is the guy that goes in the state semifinals. Because that game was this weekend. But everybody's good at this point. And yeah, you talk about their mindset, that's the type of mindset you want to have. Maybe it's not the big mindset they have, maybe they hold it back for the cameras a little bit, but Pal-Mac is doing some unprecedented things. It is always fun to see, these schools make their runs for the first time. It's always great to, talk about the powerhouses and things like that. But, to get a team that is going here for the first time ever, last year they won the sectional title as well. So, we would have liked to see what they could have done there, but the Red Raiders getting it done, unprecedented grounds. They've also got, which we're going to get to in just a hot second, their girls lacrosse team going to the state semis as well. I saw the Twitter videos today coming in, the pep rally, the mascot leading them down, the fire trucks and all that jazz. So, it's an exciting time to be in Pal-Mac for sure.
Oh yeah, 100%. They've been doing their thing in all sports this year. So hopefully one of those teams are able to bring back a state title back to the 585.
Definitely. And moving away from baseball and softball, as I previously mentioned, we've got Mario Sacco coming in from WSYR, our sister station in Syracuse. Break down what he saw yesterday, break down what we're going to see tomorrow in the Far West Regionals and girls lacrosse. It's a great conversation, provide a lot of insight. He's seen all of these teams, really great stuff. So let's go to that interview with Mario right now. All right, as we just mentioned, here is Mario Sacco here from our sister station in Syracuse, WSYR. He was there yesterday for the boys lacrosse state semifinals. We've got Rochester versus Syracuse and all the girls lacrosse games. So we got a busy weekend coming up. We appreciate you coming on. Mario, how are you enjoying the end of the spring sports season?
It's been madness. We had 10 teams over this way win in the, quarterfinal games, if it be lacrosse, softball, or baseball. So things have been kind of crazy. When Sunday comes, I'll take a big sigh of relief and actually eat a dinner.
Yeah, it gets a little tough this time of year running around, especially when, sometimes the lacrosse comes here to Rochester. I think sometimes in Syracuse, Cortland's close-ish, but they didn't do us any favors with the state championship locations this year.
No, they definitely did not, sticking them down in Hofstra for the boys' end of things. We still have two teams going, taking a look at that Class A game yesterday between Fairport and Baldwinsville. Baldwinsville's nationally ranked for a reason. Latest rankings have them 20th nationally. Their lone loss came to Victor early in the season, and that was after a back-to-back game. They played Friday night, lost at Victor, and Baldwinsville legitimately is the best team that I've seen in our area in some time, in the 6-7 years that I've been up here. Very talented team. And Fairport had them on the ropes in the first quarter, jumped out to a 3-1 lead. And I thought, is this going to be an 8-7 type of game? And then the switch flipped for Baldwinsville. They started to move the ball around, started to get defensive stops. We're shutting off Fairport's, best players, doing a great job and timely key saves in that second quarter. And they just, put the pedal to the metal and outscored them 6-0 in that second quarter. What makes Baldwinsville so good, they have a lot of weapons. And Fairport just couldn't key on one or two guys, They try and shut off Keegan Lynch, as Baldwinsville's main kid, but they have so many other weapons. And if it be Trey Ordway, or I can go down the line, Colin Doyle's a very good player, Leo Johnson. And that ultimately was what was the difference in that Class A game between them and Fairport.
It's funny when you sent me back the highlights and I said, hey, can you give me like a timestamp on this stuff? You were like, all right, I'm going to break this down for you. The Fairport goals were all in the first quarter. Pick any goal from Baldwinsville in the second quarter. And I'm like, all right, easy enough.
Yeah, it was 1-1 about, 4 minutes in. It was kind of, feeling each other out. And when Fairport took that 3-1 lead, and I looked at the kid next to me from Spectrum, and I said, this is a team that they got some talent that can go against Baldwinsville. And then it was just like, a couple of long pull goals by Baldwinsville. Then a light went off and was like, okay, let's start playing our brand of lacrosse. And talking to Matt Wilcox, who I think is the best coach in our area, a bright young guy that played collegiately, that actually is an alumni of Baldwinsville, coaching his alma mater. And I said, what changed in that second quarter? And he said, I didn't have to say anything. It's the senior leadership of this team. They said, just take care of the ball. And that's what they did in that second and third quarters. And, Fairport, it got a little chippy at times. And, credit Baldwinsville for settling down and playing their game from the second quarter on.
Yeah, and then in that Class B game, a back alley bloodbath, street brawl, if you just say 5-1, Canandaigua wins over West Genesee in the Class B game. You were there. Just how was Canandaigua able to hold a team to just one goal in the state semifinals?
They did it by possessing the ball. I got over there, and it was 3-0 with about 9 minutes to go in the second quarter. And I'm like, this West Jenny team can score. Like, looking at West Jenny throughout the year, they just kept getting better. I didn't think they were, going to be section champs at the beginning of the year, but the way that their younger guys developed and became, kind of stars at the end of the season, I was like, all right, this game could be, 12, 13 goal game. And I got over there and it was 3-0. They scored 1 goal to make it, a 3-1 game. And I was like, all right, maybe that was the momentum that they needed. But talking at halftime, they said, Canandaigua just controlled the ball throughout the first half. Out of that, 24 minutes of time, they said Canandaigua probably had the ball for 18 minutes of that. And, they just wore West Genesee down. Canandaigua's goalie made a couple of nice saves to keep it, a 3-1 lead. And I just think that West Jenny got, wanted to speed up the game, and they couldn't with a team like Canandaigua. You can't. You got to play, kind of their style of lacrosse, and credit Canandaigua. That was the second time I've seen them this year, guys. I saw them. I covered them against Baldwinsville, and I looked at the Baldwinsville score back at the beginning of the year, and it was 6-0. What was the final? And I'm like, that's very low scoring for Baldwinsville, but that's just the style that Canandaigua plays. They get behind it. It doesn't matter to them, and credit, they're playing for a state championship now, 1 win away as they get to go up against Garden City.
Yeah, I remember seeing that result earlier in the season. We're like, 6-0. How do you score Canandaigua? How does Canandaigua score 0 goals?
It was 3-0, like maybe 3.5 minutes into that game, and I'm like, all right, well, I got my stuff. Maybe I can leave. And I'm like, oh, good thing I got there when I did, because it ended 6-0. Like, yeah. So they are a very good defensive team. They know the style that they want to play. And, they're going to need to have to play that kind of style against a Garden City team that's won, about a dozen state championships.
Yeah, I mean, in these last 6 games, Canandaigua on their run through the sectional playoffs and, the end of the regular season, the most goals the winning team has scored is 9. So that's the game they're going to try and play. As you mentioned, Garden City is 16th in the country right now. That's the state championship game. Canandaigua not ranked nationally, but Victor still is. They're still at 25th, and Canandaigua beat Victor to get there. So maybe getting a little underrated nationally, but they'll certainly have their chance to prove it on this Saturday. And with that, we'll go on over to the girls' side where we have a lot of games coming up, Carl.
Just a little it starts with that Class AA game. I don't know much about Rush-Henrietta. Obviously, you guys know a lot, but just as the Baldwinsville boys are very talented, the Baldwinsville girls are the best team by far in our area. They've run through everyone in Section 3, kind of cakewalk in the section championship game, and they have a load of talent. Desimone is a very good lacrosse player. She's going to Syracuse, the class of 2023 commit. But they're loaded from top to bottom. The Hollenbeck triplets, actually. Their brother Ryan plays on the boys team, and the 2 sisters play on the girls team. So a very potent Baldwinsville offense that Rush-Henrietta is going to have to slow down.
Yeah, it definitely indeed. And there's a couple, common opponents that Baldwinsville has played out of the Section 5 area this year. They played Victor and Pittsburgh, who they were only 2 losses of the season, I believe. And they did take down Brighton out of the area as well. This is our age team that's led by Ellie Garrett. She's the head honcho. She's going to be the driving force. But I think the thing that's impressive about Henrietta, and it was funny how I went on a 2-week stretch where I covered them 3 times, and it just but they have 7 players with 30 points or more. So it's just Ellie Garrett show. They have a bunch of girls who are able to move the ball around and find the back of the net. So it's an early one. They're going to take it back to the travel days, 9 a.m. So whatever travel schedules they had back in the day when they was playing travel lacrosse, we'll bring that mindset back, waking up at 7:30 or whatever time you got, and for the right to advance to the state side.
Yeah, I'm shipping Alex down for the early games. With the little kids, I don't get up until I get up at about 5:30, but she's going to have to go down and cover those ones for us. So we'll send her down. But as you mentioned, the multiple scoring that Rush-Henrietta has, Baldwinsville is the same way. I mean, they put up 23 goals against the Corning team. And don't get me wrong, anytime Section 3 plays Section 4, Section 3 pretty much dominates on the girls lacrosse side. Corning was a very good team this year, and, they put up 23 goals, and it was like, all right, she's got 2 goals, she's got 2 goals, she's got 3 goals. Like, they can spread the wealth around as well, but it goes with, Mia Posey and Carly DeSimone.
And moving down to Class B, it's going to be Victor, our top dog, number 2 in the country right now, taking on Fayetteville Manlius. And we've got one common result. It was early in the season, but FM lost to Pittsford 18-2, a team that Victor beat handedly as well. The main question is, has FM gotten 17 times better to make this a fight against Victor here?
I don't think so, and I like FM for the fact that they're a team that at the beginning of the year had talent as far as you knew who their best player was. Ava Angelo is probably one of the best players in the state. Definitely, I would say the best player in Section 3, hands down. She goes about 5'10", 5'11", and she takes the draws for them. Funny story with Ava Angelo. Her brother is Anthony Angelo, who is a member of the Pittsburgh Penguins and that played for Wilkes-Barre Scranton this year. Very talented family, to say the least. But she scores 6-7 goals a game. Like she is a very potent threat when it comes offensively. Juliana Cogliandro is another good player. They have another Staggerwald. Actually, the funny part with the Staggerwalds, the two twin Staggerwalds play at Michigan, and they have another one. Melanie is one of the key players for FM. But to answer your question, no, Victor, I think is head and shoulders, and you guys have seen him play numerous times. The best team in the state that I think, and FM's going to have their hands full. They're going to need Ava Angelo to score 8-9 goals and hope that they can shut them down and not give Victor the ball. But that's easier said than done.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the star, Angelo for FM. Victor has one as well, and Ava Pronti, she's going to Duke, been doing her thing. I believe AJ that she's outscoring the rest of Section 5 by 40 points. Is that the?
Yeah, she's got 40 more than her for the next leading goal or point scorer, and she's got 136 she's got 136 points this year. Victor's allowed 105 goals this year. So like if you were to just play her against the other team, they'd still be coming out on top. So
it'll be interesting because Angelo takes faceoffs, and if they can start winning draws and maybe play a slow down game, not allow Victor to score 15, 16 goals, but it's easier said than done with a Victor team.
100%. And going down to Class C, we get to this time of year and you look at the records, and it's usually 1, 2, maybe 3 losses. Yeah. HFL has 8 losses, and as AJ knows, that's due in large part because of the schedule that they play. They're taking on a Fulton team out of Section 3 who has 6 losses, but I assume that's due in part to the schedule as well.
Yes.
What Fulton brings to the table and how they got to this point.
Well, they got to this point by upsetting Janesville DeWitt, and if you guys know anything about Section 3 girls lacrosse, JD's always a team that's always there. If it be in the section championship game, playing in the state semifinals, they upset them in the championship game. And Fulton is a young team. They have a Maya Carroll girl, and they like to get up and down. They can score, and as you mentioned, there's 6 losses. I mean, they play a schedule that you're playing Class A schools, the Class C schools, the way that Section 3 is around here. You're playing a variety of those teams when it comes to the SCAC. So you're playing A, B, and C teams the whole way through, and then you kind of split each other up. So this one intrigues me because I didn't think Fulton would be there, but they just keep winning. And they're 2 sub-regional and regional games. They pounded both teams that they played, obviously of lesser competition. And now you go back to, a Section 5 team that I think this will be a 1 or 2 goal game between the 2.
Yeah, and I mean, HFL, they've made their living getting out of the Far West Regionals. They have not been able to get state championship quite yet. They're still looking for that title there. So, like you mentioned, this is going to be a really good matchup. I think this might be the tightest one that we could see this weekend.
I wholeheartedly agree with you on that one.
And then finally wrapping up in Class D, we've got Skinny Atlas taking on Pal-Mac. And, looking at these common opponents, I was, looking to see if, they were going to, maybe face some of our Class C teams, Bass Class D. They're scheduling everybody. They've got Victor, they've got Penfield, they've got Canandaigua on the schedule, and they're not doing half bad. They're giving these teams a run for their money. How is Class D Skinny Atlas, it's tough, 13-7 against Victor might not sound that close, but for a Victor game, that's a pretty dang close game.
Bridget, their coach, knew coming into the year that she had a very good lacrosse team, and with senior leadership and upperclassmen leadership, and she wanted to test her team, and she did right out of the gate. AJ and Carl, they played FM to start the season and got waxed. FM FM jumped up on them 9-0 or 9-1, I think it was. And it was kind of a shell shock to say, you girls are very talented, but, you got to bring it day in and day out. And she's scheduled, as you mentioned, that schedule was, top to bottom, if not the hardest in Section 3, one of the hardest in Section 3, and it's paid off. They are led by a host of players. I talked about B-Bill's wealth that they have as far as scoring is concerned. Julia Connor can score. Bella Brogan can fill the back end of that. Catherine Morrissey. These are girls that at any point in time can put 4 or 5 goals in the net. And you're like, what just happened? This is by far, when I'm looking at classifications wise, I would say, probably the 3rd best team in our area behind Baldwinsville and FM. I would put Skinny Atlas right there, even though they're a Class D school with what they have talent wise.
Yeah, and in Class D, Pal-Mac, a younger team. I was talking to one of the photographers on the sideline, team photographer. She was like, we did not expect to be here. Like, we lost some people. Like, we were not expecting this. And every time Pal-Mac, we talked about the teams that Skinny Atlas was playing, the Class A, the cream of the crop in Section 5. Even when Pal-Mac was playing the second tier teams in Section 5, it was not incredibly close. So, they're going to have to really, they've had a really strong playoff run, but the way you talk about Skinny Atlas, it sounds like they've certainly got their work cut out for them here.
Yeah, and I thought, from if it be first or second weekend of the season, this was a Skinny Atlas team that could win a state title. And I still think that out of any of the teams, Baldwinsville, obviously, but Skinny Atlas was the second team that I thought, if we're winning a state title on girls lacrosse side, it would come from Skinny Atlas. And, for them, it was getting over the hurdle of South Jefferson. South Jefferson, you want to talk about scheduling, tough opponents. South Jeff did the same thing, and they met each other in that section championship game, and it was a phenomenal game that went down. Skinny Atlas scored with 14 seconds left to beat them and kind of got, so to say, the monkey off their back of beating South Jeff. And, when it comes to the state semifinal games, I think Skinny Atlas will win this one. And I'm not saying it's going to be a blowout, but I think Skinny Atlas is just too good to fall to Pal-Mac.
Definitely. Well, we've got a lot of great games coming up this weekend, coming off of a pair of good ones on the boys side that we just saw. So Mario, we really appreciate you coming on the show, providing some insights as we close out the home stretch of this season here in spring sports.
Well, fellas, I appreciate it. And let's enjoy our dinners now. Come Sunday, we can actually go home and eat a dinner, and for me, maybe see the kids every once in a while. That doesn't happen for the last 3 months.
Yeah, and one more thing, Mario, we were talking about this earlier. How much are you looking forward to actually having a state tournament so you don't have to talk about defending champions from 2019?
Yeah. The worst was looking back, and I was like, I think they played in a state title game, but it's been forever long ago. Yeah, even like playing section championship games that, we got to play. It started last year with the lacrosse. That was the first section championship games that we had for the spring sports. So to see these kids kind of, return to normalcy is, I know it has to be a joy for you guys, for me to get out there and yeah, it's a lot of work, but to cover these, teams and see the joy that it brings when, if it bring a section title or, regional title, it's pretty fun to see, that joy back in these kids' faces after anything they've had to go through over these last couple of years.
Yeah,
Definitely. Yeah.
100%. With me being my first year in the business, I can't relate to like all the up and down.
You walked in at a very tricky time, Carl.
Yeah, but I kind of walked in, and with me doing research and not being too familiar with the teams from the past, let's just say a couple times this year, I definitely said teams were defending state champs, even though that was 2019 years ago.
The worst was basketball, and I was like, West Jenny's still the defending state champs, and they haven't played it. They haven't played for a state title in 3 years. I'm like, Fred, your team's still defending champs until you lose, buddy.
Well, we'll finally get that out of the way this